Welcome to Mastermind with me, John Humphreys. Tonight's 4 contenders will answer questions on the director who gave us the Brat Pack films, one of the great jazz singers of the last century, the American president who ended slavery, and a war poet who lost his life at the age of 24. All 4 contenders get just 2 minutes for those subjects and then 2.5 minutes for their general knowledge. And added to that pressure, they have to do it all in the forbidding black chair. So let's get on with it and ask our first contender to join us, please. And your name is?
Monisha Rajesh.
Your occupation?
Journalist.
And your chosen subject?
Films of John Hughes.
The director of those massively popular Brat Pack films in the 80s. 2 minutes on him, starting now. Who plays Miles Russell, one of the 3 children that the title character has to look after in Uncle Buck?
Macaulay Culkin.
Yep. At the neighbourhood street party and she's having a baby, Ken tells Jake that the 2 things he likes most about him are his wife and his...
lawnmower.
Yes. In Planes, Trains and Automobiles, Gus's son Owen explains to Del and Neil that the only trains to go from Wichita are for hogs and cattle. Where do people catch the train from?
Stubbville.
Yep. In The Breakfast Club, who does Carl, the janitor, say that he wanted to be when he was a child in a conversation with the teacher, Mr. Vernon?
John Lennon.
Yep. What is the name of the man who gave the title character of Curly Sue her nickname? She says it's because she reminded him of the big oaf in The Three Stooges.
Tampa Joe Riley.
Yes. What does Gary call the girl that he and Wyatt create in Weird Science because he once had a crush on someone with the same name?
Lisa.
Yep. The name of which American band is scrawled prominently across the front of Sam Baker's blue school ring binder folder in 16 Candles?
The Rave-Ups.
Yes. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Cameron's father's passion is not his family, but a 1961 Model 250 GT California car manufactured by which company?
Ferrari.
Yes, in Uncle Buck. What answer does Buck's inquisitive nephew Miles give when Buck asks him what his record is for consecutive questions
38.
asked? Yes. When Del Griffiths, played by John Candy in Planes, Trains and Automobiles, cannot pay the $42.50 charge for a room for the night, he offers to pay $2 and hand over what item?
A Casio watch.
Yes, his wristwatch. In Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Ferris jumps onto a parade float and mimes to Twist and Shout. And which other song?
Wayne Newton's Dankeschön.
Dankeschön. In The Breakfast Club, John Bender describes his deprived upbringing and suggests that Claire's diamond earrings were a Christmas present from Daddy. What does he say was his only present last Christmas?
Carton of cigarettes.
Yes, in She's Having a Baby, Jake lies on his resume and says he's worked for which Japanese advertising agency?
Netsu.
Yep. What object that belongs to Ed Rooney, the teacher who's pursuing Ferris Bueller, does Ferris's sister Jeannie find on the kitchen floor?
His wallet.
Absolutely right. As indeed were all of your answers. You have, Monisha, 14 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Zoe Alford.
Your occupation?
University Administrator.
And your chosen subject?
Billie Holiday.
Billie Holiday, the ultimate jazz singer known as Lady Day. 2 minutes on her starting now. Which song became associated with Billie Holiday after she performed it for the first time at the Cafe Society nightclub in New York in 1939? The lyrics describe the aftermath of a lynching.
Strange Fruit.
Yes. What's the name of Holiday's 1956 autobiography that was written with the journalist William Duffy?
Lady Sings the Blues.
Yep. Her breakthrough came in July 1935 when she recorded the first of several tracks with a small band led by which pianist?
Teddy Wilson.
Yes. Holiday fronted the Count Basie Band in a so-called Battle of the Bands at the Savoy Ballroom in Harlem in January 1938. Who was the singer with the opposition Chick Webb Band?
Ella Fitzgerald.
Indeed. What is the name of the facility run by nuns in Baltimore that became her home on 2 separate occasions during her chaotic childhood?
The House of the Good Shepherd.
Yes. Holiday appeared as the surprise guest singer at a concert in Carnegie Hall in February 1947, performing with a band led by which trumpeter?
Fletcher Henderson.
Louis Armstrong. Holiday's only major film role was in a 1947 Hollywood film that features jazz music, but the black musicians were only given menial roles. What's the film's title?
New Orleans.
Yes. Holiday was known for wearing what type of flowers in her hair during her live performances?
Gardenias.
Yes. Holiday joined the tour of which clarinet player's big band in Boston in 1938 as their singer? She was the only black member of an otherwise all-white band.
Artie Shaw.
Yes, she recorded her first commercially released song accompanied by the Benny Goodman Orchestra in November 1933. What is the title of the song?
Your Mother's Son-in-Law.
Yes. Which tenor saxophonist gave Holiday the nickname Lady Day? He lived with her and her mother in 1934 and she nicknamed him Prez.
Lester Young.
Yes, Holiday made her British concert debut in February 1954 at the Free Trade Hall in which city?
New York.
Manchester. Which song, co-written by Holiday and performed by her in a short film recorded in August 1950, opens with the line, "Them that's got shall have"?
God Bless the Child.
Yes. What was the name of her trumpeter boyfriend with whom she started to use heroin in the 1940s?
Joe Guy.
Joe Guy is correct. No passes, Zoe. You have 12 points. And our next contender, please. And your name is?
Mark Grant,
The occupation?
accountant.
Chosen subject?
Keith Douglas.
The Second World War poet who died during the Normandy invasion in 1944. 2 minutes on him, starting now. What is the name of the wadi near Tripoli where Keith Douglas was wounded by a landmine in January 43? He used its name in the title of his wartime memoir.
Zemzem.
Yep. What does Douglas say has a sinful taste in the opening line of the poem Egypt?
Aniseed.
Yes. At which village in Cambridgeshire did he receive training for the European campaign between January and April 1944?
Chippenham.
Yep. Which poem, written at the hospital in El Barra, where Douglas was recovering from his injuries, opens with the line, "Shall I get drunk or cut myself a piece of cake?"
Cairo Jag.
Yes. An early version of a poem written while Douglas was still a schoolboy was published in New Verse in March 1938. Which poem?
Dejection.
Yep. By what nickname does Douglas usually refer to his colonel, E.O. Kellett, in his memoir Alamein to Zemzem?
Piccadilly Jim.
Yep. Which poem, said to be the last he completed before he left for the Middle East in 1941, opens with the words, "Remember me"?
Simplify Me When I'm Dead.
Yes. To which First World War poet does Douglas pay tribute in Desert Flowers when he writes, "I only repeat what you were saying"?
Rosenberg.
Yes. What was the name of the poet and memoirist who was Douglas's tutor at Oxford and sent his poems to T.S. Eliot so he could consider them for publication?
Edmund London.
Yes. What is the two-word title that Douglas intended for his collection of poems? It came from an unfinished work that includes the line, "This is my particular monster. I know him. He walks about inside me."
Bête Noire.
Yes. What German title that means "forget-me-not" is given to the poem he wrote in Tunisia in 1943, in which he describes his discovery of a dead German soldier carrying a photograph of his sweetheart?
Vergiss me nicht.
Yes. Which city provides the title of Douglas's poem that begins, "At home, as in no other city, here summer holds her breath in a dark street"?
Oxford.
Yes. Which composer's name appears in the titles of two poems by Douglas written in 1939?
Haydn.
Yep. In 1941 and 42, Douglas visited Cairo to stay with David Hicks, the editor of the literary magazine that published several of his poems. What was the magazine's title?
The Citadel.
Yes. What 6 words end the poem On a Return from Egypt, the last known poem completed by Douglas?
Do I meet a wraith or a...
No, I fear what I shall find. However, Mark, you have scored 14 points. And our final contender, please. And your name is?
Emma Swift,
Your occupation?
parliamentary researcher.
And your chosen subject?
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln, the American president who led his country through the Civil War. 2 minutes of questions starting now. On which Christian holy day was Lincoln shot and fatally wounded by John Wilkes Booth while he was at a performance of a play at Ford's Theatre in Washington, D.C.?
Good Friday.
Yes, in 1831 he settled in an Illinois village where he started work in Denton Oppert's grocery store. Which village?
New Salem.
Yep. After his re-election as president, Lincoln helped persuade the House of Representatives to pass which amendment to the Constitution that outlawed slavery?
13th.
Yes. In the first weeks of his presidency, Lincoln sanctioned relief expeditions to Fort Sumter in South Carolina and to which fort in Florida? The operation was a failure.
Fort Pickens.
Yes. Which city hosted the 1860 Republican National Convention at which Lincoln was nominated as the party's candidate for the forthcoming presidential election?
Chicago.
Yes. As a congressman, he challenged the justification for a war that had begun in 1846. Which war?
Mexican.
Yes. What was the name of the riverboat that took Lincoln and his entourage to General Grant's headquarters at City Point, Virginia, in March 1865?
River Queen.
Yes. A claimed victory in a bloody battle in September 1862 encouraged Lincoln to announce to his cabinet that he intended to issue the Emancipation Proclamation. Which battle?
Antietam.
Yes. Which former commander of the Army of the Potomac was Lincoln's opponent in the 1864 presidential election?
George McClellan.
Yes. His close female friend, with whose family he had boarded in New Salem, died in 1835. What was her name?
Anne Rutledge.
Yes. What was the name of the residence around 3 miles from the White House that the Lincoln family used as a summer retreat from June 1862?
Soldiers' Home.
Yes. What was the name of the Constitutional Union's presidential candidate in the 1860 election? His running mate was Edward Everett.
John Bell.
Yes. Which rival for the 1860 presidential nomination served as Lincoln's Secretary of the Treasury from 1861 to 64?
Salmon Chase.
Yes. What was the name of the Secretary of War who was reported to have said, "Now he belongs to the ages," at Lincoln's deathbed?
Edwin Stanton.
Edwin Stanton is correct. What 4 words immediately preceded "with charity for all" in Lincoln's second inaugural address in March 1865?
Pass.
Well, I can tell you because you're out of time. It is "with malice toward none," as you knew.
Yes.
Yeah. Emma, you have scored 14 points. So, time now to invite all our contenders back into the studio together. And all together for the general knowledge round now. 2.5 minutes this time, the questions, and if there's a tie at the end of it, then the person with the fewer passes is the winner. And if they're tied on passes as well, there has to be a tie break. And remember that the contenders don't know what each other have scored. They were out of the studio at the time. So for everyone at home, let's have a look at all the scores. As always, we start with the contender with the lowest score, who happens to be Zoe. And we can now disclose what you scored. Very good score, I must say, very high scoring in this contest. You have 12 points. So you've now got 2.5 minutes to add to that score. Here we go. In A.A. Milne's poem, with whom did Christopher Robin go down to Buckingham Palace?
Winnie the Pooh.
Alice. What aquatic rodent blocks the flow of rivers by building dams and dome-shaped lodges of sticks plastered with mud?
Beavers.
Yes. What vegetable is the main ingredient of the thick soup crème du Barry?
Potato.
Cauliflower. How is the American singer and songwriter Stephanie Joanne Angelina Germanotta better known? She rose to prominence in 2008 with her debut studio album, The Fame.
Lady Gaga.
Yes. What proverbially busy insects are the symbol of Manchester? They represent the city's industriousness.
Bees.
Yes. What male name is used in signalling and radio communications for the letter R in the sense of received and understood?
Roger.
Yes. Which Hebrew patriarch in the book of Genesis is the son of Lamech and the father of Shem, Ham and Japheth?
Jacob.
Noah. What do the initials LCD stand for in relation to flat-screen televisions and computer monitors?
Light colour display.
No, liquid crystal display. Which French city stands at the confluence of the rivers Rhône and Saône? It was once the capital of Roman Gaul.
Strasbourg.
Lyon. The novel Good Friday, which was published in 2017, is the 6th book to feature the detective Jane Tennyson. Who wrote it?
Pass.
Who was dismissed from the post of First Lord of the Admiralty after the failure of the Dardanelles campaign in 1915?
Lord Kitchener.
Churchill. Who became the first female disc jockey on Radio 2's weekday daytime schedule for 20 years when she joined Simon Mayo on the early evening drive time slot in May 2018?
Jo Wiley.
Yes. What did General de Gaulle say was too serious a matter to be left to the politicians?
Politics.
Yes. In January 2016, who became the first woman and the youngest person to be First Minister of Northern Ireland when she succeeded Peter Robinson to the post?
Pass.
A giant metal and glass pyramid designed by the Chinese-American architect I.M. Pei stands in front of which Parisian building?
The Louvre.
Yes, in Lady Windermere's fan, the Duchess of Berwick says Australia must be so pretty because of the dear little creatures flying about. What creatures?
Pass.
Which British sprint cyclist has won more stages in the Tour de France than any other of his fellow countrymen? He won his 30th in 2016.
Pass.
What musical instrument is depicted in the third quarter of the Royal Standard?
The violin.
Harp. No, stringed instrument, but not quite. Your pass is that British sprint cyclist who won so many stages in the Tour de France was Mark Cavendish. That ridiculous comment from Lady Windermere's fan, there's all the dear little creatures flying about, kangaroos. Arlene Foster became the First Minister of Northern Ireland. Linda LaPlante wrote the novel Good Friday. Those passes, Zoe, you have a total of 19 points. And now, next in the chair is Monisha. And you start out, Monisha, with 14 points. And, well, you know the score to beat. Let's see if you can do it in 2.5 minutes. Here we go. The diet of the giant panda consists almost entirely of the stems and leaves of what plant?
Bamboo.
Yep, the growth of an American city took off in the 1930s when construction workers from the Hoover Dam went there to gamble and find other diversions. Which city?
Pass.
Alia's posthumous hit, More Than a Woman, was followed at #1 in January 2002 by another posthumous record, My Sweet Lord, by which artist?
Pass.
What name is given to the short, single-edged sword with a curved blade that broadens towards the point? Historically, it was used mainly in Turkey and the Middle East.
Scythe.
Scimitar. Which planet's existence and position was predicted independently in the 1840s by Adams and Leverrier following observations of discrepancies in the orbit of Uranus?
Neptune.
Yes. During which Christian festival is a type of rich cheesecake called pashka traditionally served in Russia?
Easter.
Yes. What team that play their home matches at Nailsworth in Gloucestershire was promoted to the Football League for the first time in 2017?
Pass.
Which children's character created by Raymond Briggs has a wife called Mildew and a son called Mould?
Fungus the Bogeyman.
Yes. Which hymn of praise in St. Luke's Gospel, spoken by Mary, the mother of Jesus, is known by the first word of its Latin version?
Messiah.
Magnificat. Apsley House at Hyde Park Corner was the London home of a duke and is now a museum to him. Which duke?
Gloucester.
Wellington. What colour are the flowers of the common ornamental shrub Forsythia?
Purple.
Yellow. Which organisation was established in Britain in 1919 in order to manage the nation's woodlands, which had been depleted by the First World War?
The National Trust.
The Forestry Commission. In March 2012, Leanne Wood became the first woman to be elected leader of what political party?
The Women's Equality Party.
Plaid Cymru. Who plays James Halliday, the creator of the virtual reality world Oasis in Steven Spielberg's 2018 film Ready Player One?
Pass.
Which country's fleet was effectively destroyed by a British force at the Battle of Cape Matapan in March 1941?
Spain.
Italy. What completes the line from Shakespeare's Henry IV, Part 2, Uneasy lies the head that wears...
Pass.
By what name was the matriarch of the Ewing family in the television series Dallas usually known? She was played by Barbara Bel Geddes and Donna Reed.
Sue Allen.
It was Miss Ellie. Your pass is, uneasy lies the head that wears a crown. That was the missing phrase. Sir Mark Rylance played James Halliday, the creator of the virtual reality world Oasis in Spielberg's film. The team that played their home matches at Nailsworth in Gloucestershire, Forest Green Rovers. My Sweet Lord was a George Harrison hit. And that city that started to get really big in the 1930s was Las Vegas. You've scored now a total, Monisha, of 18 points. And now, Mark again, please. And Mark, you also start this round with 14 points. 19 is the score to beat. Here we go, 2.5 minutes, general knowledge. Who in 1960 became the youngest man to have been elected American president?
Kennedy.
Yes. What name of Latin origin is given to an animal that feeds on plants?
Herbivore.
Yep. Who sang with UB40 on their chart-topping cover of Sonny and Cher's I Got You Babe in 1985 and their top 10 hit Breakfast in Bed 3 years later?
Chrissy Hines.
Yes. In which 1973 film, based on the autobiography of a prisoner on Devil's Island, do Steve McQueen and Dustin Hoffman play convicts who plan to escape?
Papillon.
Yep. Which city was declared the capital of Turkey in 1923?
Ankara.
Yep. Who plays Alf Garnett's daughter Rita in Till Death Us Do Part and its sequel in Sickness and in Health?
Eccles.
Una Stubbs. How many floating ribs does a human being have? They're half the size of the others and do not reach to the front of the body.
2.
4, 2 pairs. The Hindu festival Janmashtami, meaning birth on the 8th day, is held in the town of Mathura and celebrates the birthday of which god?
Rama.
Krishna. What cocktail of Mexican origin is made from tequila, an orange liqueur, and lime or lemon juice? It's usually served in a glass with salt on the rim.
Mojito.
Margarita. Which university, established in Uxbridge, Middlesex in 1966, is named after a 19th century British engineer?
Brunel.
Yes. Which South African novelist became the first writer to win the Booker Prize twice with the novel Disgrace in 1999?
Curtsy.
Yes. A winter sports biathlon event consists of cross-country skiing combined with what other sport?
Shooting.
Yes. Which French Impressionist artist, who painted many views of Westminster and the Thames, is quoted as saying, "Without fog, London would be quite ugly"?
Monet.
Yes. What word that means convivial comes from the astrological belief that those born under the influence of the planet Jupiter are of a cheerful disposition?
Jovial.
Yeah. What territory, along with neighbouring Daman and Diu, was captured from the Portuguese by Indian forces in December 1961?
Goa.
Yeah. Who composed the Karelia Suite in 1893, named after what was then a part of his native Finland?
Sibelius.
Yes. What is the name of the London fish market that moved from a site in the city to West India Dock on the Isle of Dogs in 1982?
Smithfield.
Billingsgate. Which former World Footballer of the Year was elected President of Liberia in December 2017?
Way.
Yes. What can be classified by the Dewey Decimal System, which is divided into 10 main groups depending on subject?
Library books. Filing library
Yes.
books.
What does a Dutch boy use to plug a hole in a dike to save the town of Haarlem in the children's novel Hans Brinker or The Silver Skates by Mary Mapes Dodge?
Finger. His finger.
Yes, his finger indeed. He put his finger in the dike. No passes mark. You now have a total of 29 points. And our final contender now, Emma. And you too, Emma. Start with 14 points. The difference is that the score to beat has increased somewhat. 29. Let's see if you can do it to get through to the semi-final. Here we go. 2.5 minutes, general knowledge. What modern racket sport developed from the old children's game of battledore and shuttlecock?
Badminton.
Yes. What vegetable that's often regarded as an essential ingredient of Christmas lunch was grown in large quantities in Belgium from the 16th century onwards?
Parsnips.
Brussels sprouts. What word for a limbless reptile, especially a snake, comes from the Latin for to creep?
Pass.
In which county is the area known as the Dukeries because it contains ducal estates, including those of the Dukes of Portland, Newcastle and Norfolk?
Pass.
Who, at 14 years and 10 months old, became Britain's youngest female artist to have a #1 in 1961 with You Don't Know? It was followed up by Walking Back to Happiness the same year.
Lulu.
Helen Shapiro. In geology, what name is given to the part of the Earth that lies beneath the crust and above the core layers?
Mantle.
Yes. Who won the 2017 Costa First Novel Award for her debut novel Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine?
Susan.
No, Gail Honeyman. In which city in Saudi Arabia was the Prophet Muhammad born in about AD 570?
Jeddah.
Mecca. In Pantokrator Mountain is the highest point on which Greek island in the Ionian Sea?
Corfu.
Yes, the Siege Perilous was an empty seat at King Arthur's Round Table, reserved for the finder of what religious artefact?
Holy Grail.
Yes, which future poet laureate was appointed official distributor of stamps for Westmoreland in 1813?
William Wordsworth.
Yes, what raw fish is the principal ingredient of the Scandinavian dish gravlax?
Haddock.
Salmon. Which sculptor used his own body as the model for the cast iron life-size figures called Another Place that are located on Crosby Beach?
Pass.
In 2017, which country beat England in the final to win the Rugby League World Cup for the 11th time out of a total 15 tournaments?
Australia.
Yep. Whose first verse drama, Brand, published in 1866, was quickly followed by the dramatic poem Peer Gynt?
Ibsen.
Yes. In a 1972 film starring Gene Hackman and Ernest Borgnine that was remade in 2005, a group of passengers struggle to survive when their ocean liner capsizes at sea. Which film?
Poseidon Adventure.
Yep. What do the initials PMQ stand for in Westminster politics?
Prime Minister's question.
Yes. In the Peloponnesian War of 431 to 404 BC and the Corinthian War of 395 to 386 BC, Athens fought against which city-state?
Sparta.
Is correct. 3 passes. Anthony Gormley was... Yeah, wouldn't come, would it? Was
No.
the sculptor, but you did know it. That ducal county, as it were, was Nottinghamshire. And the word for the limbless reptile comes to the Latin Greek, serpent. Well, a brave effort, Emma. You didn't quite get there. 24 points, which means that Mark is the winner. So let's remind ourselves of all the scores. In 4th place, 18 points, Manisha. 3rd place, 19 points, Zoe. 2nd place, 24 points, Emma. 1st place, 29 points, Mark. And he goes through to the semi-finals. If you would like to be a contender in the next series, do go to our website, bbc.co.uk/mastermind, and you can follow us on Twitter @mastermindquiz. And do join us again next time for more Masterminds. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.